in just under 18 months, we doubled the size of my practice. We went from 500,000 to 1 million. We added an operatory, and we added a team member. Now, from 2008 to 2012, this is my practice growth. And we're going to talk a lot today about my practice because it's an example of how now you need to run a dental office. Now, doctors in this room, when you talk about your dental practice, and when you talk to me after this lecture, and I say, tell me about your practice, first thing you're going to tell me is how much you grossed last year. I produced $1.2 million. Some of you will even make the huge mistake of telling me what you produced before your write-offs. I produced $1.2 million, but I wrote off $400,000, so I produced $8 million. I collected $785,000. How much did you produce? $785,000. Production and collection are the same. Call them whatever you want. Call them a unicorn, call them whatever. How much money shows up on the top line of your IRS return is how much money you produced last year. Everything else is fluff. Write-off, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It's meaningless to me. I produced $9 million, I collected $1 million, then you produced $1 million. I mean, if you want to say $9 million because it makes you feel cool, then great, say $9 million. Well, you pay taxes on $1 million. You want to pay tax on $9 million? Who here would freak out if the government says you're going to start paying taxes on what you produce? All of a sudden, everybody's like, no, I only produce $700,000. For me, that number, by the way, is meaningless. How much you collected last year is not the number that I care about. It's not how I judge your practice in any way. Two practices, identical. They both collected $1 million last year. If I were talking about them, I'd say Tom owns $1 million practice and Bill owns $1 million practice. And perhaps in the first few minutes of the conversation, you'd be like, oh, similar practices, right? Tom works 80 hours a week and Bill works 10. Are they the same practice? The only number that you need to be concerned about after you leave today is the bottom. How much money do you collect every hour that you're open? Total number of hours per week multiplied by total weeks worked. Divide into your collections. National average is $450. The average dentist in the United States of America collects on average $450 an hour. Do the math, by the way. Average dentist works 35 hours, 50 weeks a year. That's 1,750 hours a year. And the average dentist collects around $800 grand. Divide 800 by 1,750, someone in this audience, and yell out the number. It's between $400 and $500. Anybody disagree with me on that? Total office collection, not just doctor, total office. Because, by the way, you don't have two separate bank accounts for when you collect and when your hygienist collects, it all gets paid together and goes together. I don't care if you have 82 operatories and 16 hygienists. How much money you deposit in your one business checking account is how much you collect. And I need to know how much you collect every hour to tell you whether or not you're healthy. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not collecting at least $1,000 every hour that you're open, you're inefficient. Call it whatever you want, but you're inefficient. What I'm saying to you is, for many of you who work 40 hours a week, you could probably do the same amount of dentistry on 20. Guess what would happen, by the way, if you did that? Same amount of money collected in your practice, less hours. What happens, Doc? You make more money. Do you get that? Your overhead goes down. Your expenses go down. You work less. And you take home more. You know what that's called? Efficiency and profitability. How to control your overhead is all about how to have a high hourly collection in your practice. And that's what we teach in my coaching company. That's what we work on at all times, hourly collections. And I'm going to tell you right now, less than 1,000 in a PPO practice, 30 to 40% lower fees than your average fee-for-service dentist. If you're less than 1,000 an hour, you're doing something dramatically wrong. Now, it sounds like a lot, right? $1,000 an hour in collections. Think about it. In a PPO, now I'm a PPO provider, guys. If I get 800 grand in a PPO, that's probably higher than national average. Any PPO guys here, what do you get per grand? $850, $750, $950. Okay, so let's call it $800 to be on the low side. If I do 1 crown in an hour and 2 hygiene visits, guess what I just did? More than $1,000 in collections an hour. Is that busy, or is that just your average practice? Does it take longer to do a crown in an hour for some of you guys, maybe? Okay, so let's call it an hour and a half, and you go into your other room and you do a filling. $1,000 an hour is not a lot of dentistry. Quite frankly, $450 an hour, if you think about it now when you leave here, you know what I call that? Sleeping. If my office is doing $450 an hour, you know what that means? I'm in my office, on the telephone, not treating patients, and my hygienists are working. That's $450 an hour. That means you don't have enough patients coming through your practice. Why don't you have enough patients? Who goes to the dentist? People with insurance. What kind of insurance do those people have? All right. And now some of you, perhaps you, sir, have a very busy, successful fee-for-service office. Great. Awesome. Be more efficient, you'll make even more money. You'll have 2 votes instead of 1. There's no bad side to efficiency. Do you think Mercedes is like, we don't need to be efficient. Our cars are really expensive. We're good. We can just be totally profitable. No. But efficiency is how to be profitable. And hourly collections are how to be profitable. And how I evaluate a practice before I coach it is on the hourly collections in your office. Did anyone do the number, by the way, here? While we're sitting here, did anybody calculate? I know you all did. Or you're going to later to freak out. Anything less than 1,000, you should be able to, and this is really important, you should be able to affect change in that number, and this is really cool, docs, without adding team members or chairs. That also to me means without adding overhead. Who here wants to add money to their collections without adding overhead? What's your variable cost in your practice? Anybody know? Anybody know what variable cost is? It's glue and lab fees, basically. It's a huge amount of line items, but basically it boils down to like your every-shine bill and your lab bill. Those are the variable expenses in your practice. They vary based on how much dentistry you do. If you don't do a lot of crowns, your lab bill drops. If you do a lot of crowns, it goes up. If you don't do a lot of crowns, you don't need a lot of glue. If you do a lot of crowns, you need a lot of glue. See, they go hand in hand. Average practice in the U.S. fee-for-service or PPO is about 20% or less in variable costs. Fixed costs are everything else, like salaries and utilities and insurance and the physical plan, rent, all of those things are fixed. Fixed costs don't change no matter how much dentistry you do. Do 1 million crowns, 500,000 crowns, your rent stays the same, your insurance doesn't really change much, your utilities may fluctuate a hair, maybe you send Sally home that week or she gets a couple extra hours, but for the most part, your payroll stays similar. Fixed expenses stay somewhat the same. If you add $100 an hour without adding chairs or team members, no increase in fixed expenses, doctors take home on average $101,000 a year. Doctors, who wants $100,000 extra dollars? Especially here in Vegas where there's a casino right next to us. You need that. From last night to the draft, I definitely did that. So I do the number that I do in my office, and I have 100% of my patients paying less than my UCR. Almost everyone, and I say almost, maybe there's a couple of them, maybe it's 99.9%, but a couple of my patients pay my fee. But almost all of them have a reduced fee. They either have a reduced fee plan, they belong to like the United Healthcare Reduced Fee Club, or the Blue Cross Blue Shield, whatever it is, or they're in a PPO, or they join my dental benefits membership club that I sell to them, and they get a 30% discount off of my fees. Almost no one pays the full fee. So I want to be clear about this. Last year, on 28 hours a week, I collected $1.345 million, $1,175 an hour, and I did it at a 35% discount to UCR fees. What you should get from that, and what you should take away from today, more importantly than anything else, is that you've been taught that the fee is what's important in profitability. And what you just heard from me is there's nothing great cars. Take a look at them. What do you think costs more money, Hyundai or Mercedes? What company makes more money, Hyundai or Mercedes? Hyundai. Significantly more, by the way. It's not close. Yeah, they're both selling cars. Who sells the lower priced car? Who makes more money? Does the cost of the car matter? They make more profit. By the way, why? Because more people want it. And, interestingly enough, I'm sure some of my coaching and consulting partners have shown you the triangle. What is it? It's price, quality, and service. There used to be this myth in business that there was a triangle. On one side of the triangle was price, and another corner was quality, and another corner was service. And the philosophy in business, it's probably still taught actually, is that you can only do two of the three, but never three of the three. That if you offer price and service, you have to sacrifice quality. If you offer quality and price, you have to sacrifice service. One of the 3 points in the triangle has to go. Guess what? Technology erased the triangle. Hyundai offers price, quality, and service. Their dealerships are beautiful, their service is great, the price is low, and they offer the best warranty in the world. But they do. Now the United States car companies are scrambling to have their model. Now when you go to a GE or a Ford, Chevy, you go to one of those dealerships, it's much more like a Hyundai dealership now. It used to be that PPO practices had to sacrifice service or quality in order to offer price. Guess what they don't have to do anymore? If you Google me and you go to my website, there you'll find 96 reviews. How many of them are 5 stars? 95. One of them is 1 star, because the moron who wrote the review didn't know that 5 stars was good and 1 star was bad. So it's 1 star, she's like, Dr. Krieger's the awesomest dentist I've ever been to, I would totally refer it to 1 star review. She didn't get that 1 was not as good as 5. I have 96 5-star reviews. Out of 96. Quality, price, service. Anyone here of corporate dentistry? Anyone here of Heartland? Who are they owned by now, Jim? What's the name of the company? Do you know? It's Canadian. You know that Heartland was bought by a Canadian company for $2 or $3 billion? Billion. If a Heartland starts a practice near you, in the first 3 months of the practice, you know how many patients are going to average, new patients, in that first 3 months? Somebody venture a guess here. 90? Anyone else? 100? How about if we go a little higher? 500 patients on average in the first 3 months of their new offices. Yeah, why? Everyone's like, oh my God, why? Because they're run by business people. That's why. They would have been to a brand new Eastern Dental or Heartland practice or Aspen Dental practice. Anyone been to it? It's beautiful, it's modern, it's clean. They're open 6 days a week, 6 evenings a week, 6 mornings a week. They have every specialty under the door. They have every piece of technology that you can have in dentistry. They offer convenient hours. They have lots of available appointments. Who wants that? People who want to go to the dentist. Who's open 9 to 4? Who here uses TD Bank? Is that regional? Maybe you guys will. In New Jersey, TD Bank is the only place to go. Why? Because they're open on Saturday and Sunday. Notice that I didn't talk about interest rates or banking policies or money or anything like that. I go to TD because they're open on Sunday. That's my value, by the way. I'm busy. 20 years ago, my value would have been different. My value would have been that I know Bill, he's worked at Chase for 52 years, we're friends, our dads play golf together. Loyalty, XYZ, PDQ. In 2013, you want to know why I go to TD? I don't care about Bill. I go there because on Sunday they're open and that's when I have time to go. So I do what it is that I do when I take PPOs. PPOs are a contract between you and an insurance company. They By the way, your patients don't know anything about their PPOs either. From people, how many of your patients call and have no idea what their insurance is, what it pays for? They don't even know what insurance is. Nothing. They think their medical benefit card is their insurance card. They don't even know that it's Tuesday. They're totally ignorant when it comes to insurance. The most important things that you guys need to know here if you take PPOs, if you're considering it, are these: frequency limitations, billing limitations, and fee schedules. Know what a frequency limitation is, know what a billing limitation is, and know your fee schedule. Now, when I sign up for the PPO, the fee schedule is not the first thing I look at. It's usually the last. What I look at first are billing limitations and predetermination clauses. Who here pre-needs stuff? Why? Right. And on the bottom of the predetermination, what does it say? So are you making sure that it's going to be covered, or are you wasting your time? You're wasting your time. That's okay. You can admit it to me. I usually do the same thing. Right. Insurance companies in their contracts will usually say something like, we strongly urge or recommend predeterminations for all procedures. I strongly urge that none of you in this room eat chocolate today. So you're gonna. You're gonna be like, eat a gun. Yeah. Require and recommend are two different things. So I look at that. I look at my frequency limitation. I look at my billing limitation. Know that from state to state, there are different billing limitation clauses. In some states, in the PPO, you can balance bill over the maximum. You can balance bill for uncovered procedures. And in some other states, you can't. Know the difference between an insurance plan that your patient has and an insurance guaranteed by self-funding from the patient's employer. Does everyone know the difference between the two? Because there's a huge difference. So let's say you work for GE. It's a fairly large company. GE goes to Delta Dental and says, we want to buy dental benefits for all of our employees. Cheapest you can sell. And Delta says, we love selling cheap insurance. And then GE figures out when they run the numbers that it's cheaper for them to self-insure than it is for them to pay Delta for all 22,000 of their employees. So what GE says is, listen, I'm not going to pay you $400 per person to get dental insurance. What I'm going to do is keep the money in the bank and invest in the stock market. I'm going to pay you $10 a person, and you're going to administer the plan, process the claims, and then tell me how much money I have to send to each of the patients each month out of our own bank account. I'm oversimplifying, but that's basically what it is. Do you know who governs the laws regarding that relationship? Not the state, the federal government. Anytime, by the way, guys, that the federal government is involved in governing any kind of laws, assume that the laws are totally unfair, impossible to know, and change on the hour. So make sure you know who is administering the plan, whether the state or the federal government is setting the rules. Make sure you understand your frequency and your billing limitations. And lastly, look at the fee schedule. And for me, what I'm looking at is, are the fees within 10% of the other PPO fees? So if the crown for them is $750,